You lose three things, not the chart. And the three are worth naming, because almost nobody names them, and one of them takes a great deal with it. Ask about a birth chart without a birth time, and you will usually get one of two answers. The first is that you cannot do it. That is wrong. It is also the end of the conversation, which is the worst part. The second is that it hardly matters. That is wrong in the other direction, and it is wrong about the single most useful placement in the chart. The honest answer is neither. Most of a chart survives a missing time. A specific and important part of it does not, and the part that does not is exactly the part people are usually asking about. So it is worth going through it properly, item by item, and seeing what is left. Start with what survives, because it is most of it. Every planet's sign comes from the date. That is because the outer bodies barely move in a day. Saturn covers about 1/30th of a degree in 24 hours. Jupiter about 1/12th. Mars half a degree, the Sun just under 1. Put that in perspective. A sign is 30 degrees wide. At Saturn's rate, it would take nearly 3 years to cross one. So for those bodies, a whole day of uncertainty is nothing. You could be out by a week, and Saturn would still be in the same sign. The moon is the exception, and it is worth being precise about how. The moon covers about 13 degrees a day. That is almost half a sign. So if you know only the date, the moon's sign is usually right and occasionally not. Most of the time it stays put across the whole day. Some days it changes signs somewhere in the middle, and then the date alone genuinely cannot tell you. Its exact degree is out of reach either way. That is the first of the three things you lose, which raises the question of what the other two are. The other two are the angles and everything that hangs off them. The ascendant is the point of the ecliptic rising in the east. The midheaven is the point overhead. Both are set by the Earth's rotation, which means both are set by the clock. And every house cusp is derived from them. Under whole sign houses the entire structure, follows from which sign the ascendant is in. So it is not three separate losses. It is the moon's degree, and then one loss that takes the whole house system with it. That is the shape of the problem. One body's precision and one structure. Every other thing a chart says is still there and needs nothing from the clock. Here is how much moves in a day. Take the 15th of June, 1990, in London. At midnight, the ascendant is in Pisces. At 6 in the morning, Cancer. At noon, Virgo. At 6 in the evening, Scorpio. 4 times on one date. 4 different signs. That is not a near miss between neighboring signs. They are spread right around the wheel, roughly a quarter turn apart. Without the clock, the ascendant is not approximately known. It is not known at all, and no care with the rest of the chart recovers it. So here is a chart drawn honestly with no time on it. Every planet placed in its sign. The moon marked with the caveat it deserves. And where the houses would be, nothing. Not a guess, not a default, not a wheel divided up as though the information were there. Most software will not do this. Type in no time, and it will quietly assume one, usually noon. Then it draws 12 houses as confidently as if you had handed it a hospital record. That is the thing to watch for. Not a wrong answer, but a confident one where there should be a gap. A blank space tells you something true. A default tells you nothing and looks like information. What can be read from that chart is more than people expect. Every planet's sign. Every aspect between planets, because an aspect is an angle between two positions and neither of those needs the horizon. That is the bulk of the interpretive material in most traditions. Sign placements and the aspects between them. What you cannot say is where any of it is happening. Area of life, house, corner of the chart. That question needs the frame, and the frame needs the clock. So the chart is not a stub. It is a chart with one dimension missing, and the other dimensions are all intact. There is a sentence you will find yourself unable to finish. Every reading that starts, "Your Mars is in the," and then wants a house number stops there. Not because the reading is wrong. The input for it was never supplied. Some of the tradition sits in that sentence. Quite a lot of it does not, and it is worth knowing which half you are reading. People tend to assume the missing half is most of it. It is not. It is one question out of several, asked over and over. Which brings us to what to do about it. If the time can be found, find it. It is the highest return on effort in this whole subject. But whether that is easy depends entirely on where you were born. This part gets stated badly almost everywhere. In the United States, the long-form certificate almost always carries the time. The short abstract most people keep in a drawer does not, and asking the state for the long version usually solves the whole problem in a fortnight. In the United Kingdom, it is not there. British certificates do not record the time of birth at all, unless the birth was a multiple. Canada and much of Australia are the same. So if you were born somewhere the certificate does not carry it, the paperwork is not your route. The hospital is. Delivery records and labor notes routinely include a time, and they survive longer than people expect. That is a request to a records department rather than a registry office. After that, the things nobody thinks of. Baby books. Christening records. A letter or a telegram sent that week. A newspaper announcement in some places. And then memory last, and with a caveat. A parent remembering a birth is remembering an event, not a clock face. Treat what you get as a starting point. One trick helps. Ask what else was happening rather than asking the time. The end of a shift, a meal, a news bulletin. Those anchor better than a number does, and they can often be turned back into one. Now the convention, because there is a right answer and a reason for it. If the time is genuinely unknown and nothing narrows it down, the standard is to use noon. That is not superstition. It is the answer to a small optimization. Say the birth is somewhere in the 24 hours of a known date, and you assume an hour. The worst you can be wrong by is whichever is larger, the hours before your guess or the hours after. Assume midnight, and you can be out by a full day. Assume noon, and the worst case is 12 hours. Nothing does better. That having is worth something concrete. At 13 degrees a day, 12 hours of uncertainty is about 7 degrees of moon. A full day of uncertainty is 13. So noon does not give you the moon's degree. It gives you the smallest window the information allows, and it is the honest default for that reason alone. Every other convention is worse, and most of them are worse out of habit rather than argument. What it does not do is give you an ascendant. A chart set to noon has a placeholder where the ascendant should be, and treating that placeholder as a reading is the actual error. There is one more route, and it needs stating carefully. Rectification is the practice of working backwards. You take events in a life the tradition associates with particular placements. Then you search for the birth time that would have produced them. Astrologers do this, and some of them do it very seriously. It is worth being clear about the shape of that procedure. It fits a parameter to the data it is then used to explain. Whatever you think of astrology generally, that step deserves naming rather than passing over. So, what to do? Read the chart at sign level and read the aspects. That is most of the material, and none of it needs a clerk. Leave the houses alone rather than accepting a default. An empty frame is honest. A noon frame is a guess wearing the clothes of a measurement. Go and look for the time, but look in the right place for your country. And if it never turns up, you have not lost the chart. You have lost one placement and one structure, and you now know exactly which. Next time, the planets that rule the signs, and what happened to a tidy scheme when astronomers went and found 3 more of them.